Welcome to Doorway to Wellness. Today's show is Nutritional Cleansing, an idea whose time has come. I'm very excited to share this information with you. Today we introduce nutritional cleansing as an option for how you can support your body to thrive in the 21st century. I'm especially excited with the guest we have today. Dr. David Kamnitzer is a holistic doctor. He has been in private practice for over 25 years. He is an expert in nutritional cleansing, having used it in his own practice for 7 years, and he has shared the miracle of nutritional cleansing with audiences all around the United States. Thank you so much for being here, Doctor. Would you prefer to be called Dr. David or Dr. David Kamnitzer?
Dr. David works for me, and I just want to let the viewers know that your name is Maureen.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. I really love to start off with the question, what is nutritional cleansing exactly?
Great question. So nutrition's been around for a long time. Cleansing's been around for a long time. And nutritional cleansing puts those two ideas together simultaneously in a way that produces results that you can't just produce with paying attention to nutrition, and you can't just produce these results if you just pay attention to cleansing. You know, in the olden days, we know from various religious texts that many people, for various health and spiritual reasons, would maybe just drink water for a while. And it kind of worked back then, but that doesn't work so well now, because back then we weren't as toxic as we are now. Our livers weren't in such bad shape. We just weren't. It was a different kind of a time. But today we're in a situation where our soil is depleted, our food practices kind of take away even more nutrients, and so we're kind of nutritionally depleted, but at the same time we're exposed to many more toxins than people were in the past. So we have kind of a catch-22 where we're nutritionally depleted, but at the same time we're toxic, but the nutrients that our body would need so that the organs that could help to cleanse us, we don't have them. So it's kind of a catch-22. And so you've got people that are really paying attention to how they're eating, and a lot of those people reach a plateau pretty fast. And then you have other people that have heard about cleansing. Maybe they've done some colon cleanses or some liver cleanses, and they get to a certain point with their cleansing, but because their cleansing is not a whole body cleanse, or because they don't have the nutrients they need, or maybe their blood sugar is going way up and down, they don't get the results they want, or they quit. So it's kind of a problem. And so what's really cool about nutritional cleansing is that we bring together the best in nutritional science with the best of what we've learned about how to effectively help the body to release toxins and impurities, and we put it together in a way where the results are really amazing.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. If you had a buzzword for something easy about nutritional cleansing, would there be kind of like an easy, toxins in, nutrition, or toxins out, nutrition in? Would that be something that would be an appropriate, easy way to term it?
Good stuff in without too many calories, and bad stuff out in a way that your body can handle and you can handle.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
So tell me, how long ago did you learn about nutritional cleansing?
Well, let me answer that by stepping back a little bit and just mentioning that nutritional cleansing, as it's currently being practiced, and the idea is really only about 10, 11 years old. And so it's a really new development. Most people haven't heard of it. Most people, when they think about cleanses, they think about maybe colon cleanses, or they think about a gallbladder cleanse or a liver cleanse. But now we have the technology to actually do full body cleanses, and then the technology to provide tasty, what we call nutrient-dense food, where it's well balanced in terms of proteins, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, enzymes, fiber, good bacteria, And to be able to do that and at the same time take advantage of the technology, the science that we know now about life extension, where we know that if we can keep the caloric intake moderate, that putting that all together is really amazing with regard to nutritional cleansing. So for example, when people go on nutritional cleansing programs, depending on the size of their body and their activity level, we might want them at a caloric intake when they're doing daily cleansing of maybe anywhere between maybe 13 and maybe 17 or 1800 calories, which some people might think is a little low, but we have the technology to have those calories be what is called nutrient dense, where the amount of easily absorbable high quality protein, the amount of good fat, the amount of low glycemic carbohydrates, the amount of vitamins, the amount of minerals, trace minerals, fiber, and good bacteria and enzymes is so packed that the body never thinks that it's hungry, or the body never thinks that it's starving. And so you don't have that situation where people's metabolism slows down because the body thinks that it's starving, and the body is able to maintain its muscle mass, so you continue to fuel the fires of fat burning. And so there's some amazing things that happen along those lines, and then you're safely helping the body to eliminate toxins and impurities. And so that leads to, just as a byproduct, a lot of water weight loss, because the body doesn't need to protect itself by diluting water-soluble toxins. And then you get a lot of fat loss, because a lot of fat-soluble toxins like pesticides and heavy metals are stored in your fat cells, and the body won't release those pesticides and heavy metals, and therefore won't release the fat until it knows it's safe to do so. So it's amazing how this all comes together, and that's why we're here today, because you and I are both so passionate about this breakthrough technology, and it's like one of the best kept secrets on the planet.
Yeah, that actually is just exciting me, just hearing more, again, in more detail about the real power of these nutrients when they go into your body. So tell me, why is nutritional cleansing so important now in today's society?
Well, I think it's because of the combination of stresses that we're currently under. Creates a situation where if we don't do something about that, if you take the stresses we're under and you combine it with what I was talking about earlier, with the quality of our nutrition being so poor, you get a situation that's really, really dangerous. I'm sure you know the horrible statistics in the Western world about what's happening with obesity, type 2 diabetes, all problems with memory, focus, all sorts of things. And so a lot of people have asked me this question over the years, and so I've developed a model, and I think in the control room we actually have a graphic that we can put up now, which is a way of organizing, visually representing some thoughts I want to share with you now. So if the viewers are looking at the model, basically what they're seeing is they're seeing a circle, they're seeing a triangle inside a larger circle. And so the triangle, the upper angle of the triangle, I just call your inner world. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, attitudes, expectations, body sensations, all of those things that make up your inner experience at any one moment. And then in the lower left angle, we have your biochemistry, which has to do with all of what you're exposed to biochemically. What you put in your mouth, what you eat, what you drink, the kind of makeup you use, the kind of chemicals that are in your carpet, on the clothing you wear, your deodorant, everything like that. And then on the lower right, we have structure and movement, which is how your body posture is, how you move your body, how you use your body, how you breathe. So you can imagine if the viewers are just thinking about going through a typical day, you can imagine the various kinds of stresses that are going on in your inner world, the various kinds of biochemical stresses, the various types of structural stresses, and you can see that modern men and women are under an enormous amount of stress a lot of the time, and we call that chronic stress, and that tends to produce changes in the body that's correlated with all of these dismal statistics. And so, in the United States, we spend like almost 3 times as much per capita on health care than any other country, and our statistics for the health of our people is really terrible. And so something's not working with the model that we're using. And there's a lot of things that aren't working about it. I mean, we're really not focused on wellness and optimizing wellness. But another thing is that we're not taking into consideration in our model this issue of toxicity. So it's a huge deal. And so nutritional cleansing is a biochemical intervention into that triangle that has a ripple effect through that entire triangle. And then the outer circle represents the social context in which we're living. You know, we're under various kinds of social stresses. You know, most of us don't know our neighbors very well. We don't have our family around. A lot of times we're not part of a church group or a larger community anymore. And so those are stresses as well. And so the point is we're under a lot of stress, and it's kind of a downward spiral. And what can we do to begin to make a difference into that whole process? And obviously nutritional cleansing isn't the total answer. Mm-hmm. There's other things we need to address, and the model kind of gives people an idea of different areas of entry point where you might want to make a positive intervention. But the neat thing about this model is that there's a ripple effect. And so even though nutritional cleansing is an intervention that's starting on the lower left angle, the biochemical angle of the triangle, it has a ripple effect. It affects our inner world. When our blood sugar gets stable, when we get the minerals we need, we start to feel more solid and grounded. We think more clearly. Our moods don't swing so much, so it's affecting our inner world. It's affecting our posture as we have more energy. We feel we have more of a spring in our step. So it's a pretty high leveraged way to use your energy to intervene into the whole system. And it's actually quite easy to do if you're being properly guided. And I don't know if we're going to get into it in this show. We maybe do other shows where we get into more detail about what's involved in, you know, how to do it and have it work. But, you know, for me, it's been huge. And, you know, I don't know if you'd be interested in hearing about kind of what really convinced me that this just wasn't a good idea, but it actually produced results.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
Okay. So, as you mentioned in the intro to the show, I've been a holistic doctor in private practice for over 25 years. And my commitment is, you know, to ongoing excellence in my practice. And, you know, what happens is what motivates me to learn more is when a patient has reached a plateau. And so I had a patient named Mary. We'll call her Mary. And she's been my patient for many, many years. And we weren't winning. She had chronic immune challenges, all sorts of things that I could give fancy names to. But to make a long story short, I felt like we'd reached a plateau, and I was getting ready to let her know that I didn't know where to go from here, and I was going to refer her out. And what happened was I didn't see her for 6 weeks. And then she came back 6 weeks later, and she was waiting for me, and I literally didn't recognize her. She was like a woman in her late 50s, I think, at the time. And she looked like 12 to 15 years younger when I saw her. And I said, Mary, what did you do? And to make a long story short, blah, 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 blah. Someone had talked to her about nutritional cleansing and had properly guided her through the first 30 days of her nutritional cleansing journey. And many chronic health problems had disappeared.
Wow.
Her weight had stabilized, her moods had changed, and it was like a big wake-up call for me that I really needed to investigate it. I had heard about nutritional cleansing earlier in my career, but when it was just getting started, there was only one type of cleanse, and it was pretty intense, and so we didn't know how to work with nutritional cleansing to make it work for a lot of people, and I just kind of put it on the shelf. But by this time, we'd learned more about nutritional cleansing and been able to develop different kinds of nutritional cleanses for people that were in different places. And that was my big wake-up call, that if I really cared about my patients, that I really needed to investigate nutritional cleansing, and I did. And it ended up having a big impact on myself and my family and my friends as well, and it continues to have a big impact. in my practice as well.
Could you tell me what your experience was when you embarked on that nutritional cleansing journey?
It was pretty powerful. I was turning about 50. I was kind of feeling my age. I was waking up feeling kind of achy in the morning. I didn't feel like exercising. And within 3 or 4 days of doing the same program that Mary did, I noticed that I wanted to exercise. I noticed that I had a feeling of greater control. As we get older, sometimes we feel like we're out of control with our body.
Oh.
And I had the feeling that I sort of had my hands on some important lever and dial that had something to do with the level of wellness of my body.
Wow.
It was pretty powerful for me. I lost quite a bit of weight in that first 30 days, and it was the presence of nutritional cleansing was very powerful. And, maybe this might be a good time to segue into some photographs for the viewers to see, because, sometimes the pictures are worth 1,000 words. And I think we have some photographs of, I think it's 4 people, if I'm right, 4 befores and afters.
Yeah.
And if we can put those up now,
it's up on the
I
screen
think
now.
what the viewer will see is not only that the shape of these people's bodies have drastically changed, but if you can kind of soften your eyes a little bit and just get a feeling for who these people are being, I think you can see that there's a shift that's occurring that's way more than just what we could measure quantitatively, that people are plugging back into a connection with who they fundamentally are as a human being, and it's showing up as a person in their body. Really powerful on the screen there. And, there's literally thousands and thousands of these documented befores and afters that we have that have just pretty much blown away the scientific community. Like, for example, they were blown away by the fact that we could get such powerful weight loss without any significant loss in muscle mass at all, for example, which is huge. And hormonally, the picture looked really good too. And so this really sort of shook up the sort of the nutritional science world, kind of blew their mind a little bit. They kind of had to reconsider some assumptions to actually begin to even get their mind around what nutritional cleansing is doing.
Huh. Thank you so much. That's a really powerful information. Now, is there anything in particular or any people that you may not recommend nutritional cleansing for, or the way you would go about it?
Great question. And there's sort of a history around that. If you recall, I mentioned earlier that when nutritional cleansing first came out, there was just one type. There was a pretty intense type of a cleanse that, as a doctor, I didn't feel comfortable with my range of patient population doing it with everybody. But over time, myself and other doctors and people have experimented with developing different cleanses that kind of have a different slope to it, a different degree of difficulty, to the point now where we can come up with some kind of a cleansing program to begin to move people in the right direction for just about anybody. I would say really no point in doing much cleansing with kids that are like under 5 or 6 years old. We don't want to cleanse pregnant women because we don't know for sure what's happening with the fetus.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I would say we have an understanding now of how to have this technology work for us. Or just about anybody, even people with blood sugar challenges, we have special cleansing programs to really keep their blood sugar stable over time. It's really, really exciting.
Now, is that, for somebody that may have challenges or may not, is that something that the lay person can get information for themselves how to embark on that journey, or do they need to use like a doctor like yourself or a medical doctor?
Most people don't need it directly, although if you're under a care of a physician, especially if you're taking medications that are influencing your blood viscosity, how thick your blood is, or your blood pressure, or your blood sugar, or your thyroid level, or something like that, it's very good to ask your doctor to monitor you while you're going through the cleansing program, nutritional cleansing, because what tends to happen is the body tends to start to heal itself, and a lot of functions tend to normalize. And if the person just stayed on the same amount of medication, they could actually be over-medicating themselves. So we definitely want to be very responsible in their interaction with their physicians, but the process itself is fundamentally not a medical process. It's outside the medical model. There's no diagnosing, there's no treating disease. It's all about promoting wellness and creating a context, multiple contexts, where the miracle of the body can kick in and the body really heals itself. The person really heals themselves. And myself and other people who are very knowledgeable in the area of the healing arts have put a lot of energy into training lay people to guide other lay people through this, and to know when they've kind of reached the end of their knowledge base and when it might be good to bring a doctor into the conversation. And so the movement has sort of a populist feel to it, sort of a by the people, for the people kind of a thing, but yet many, many really intelligent doctors and other health professionals have caught on over the last 10 years to the miracle and the power of nutritional cleansing. So there's kind of a synergy developing between the professional healthcare community and the lay community, which I'm really excited about. And I've actually, it's been one of my goals to be a part of that synergy and make sure that that synergy has some real momentum.
That's great, yeah, because some people, somebody watching this show may not know of a doctor such as yourself that would be able to guide them through. So it's really nice to know that that's part of the system, that in the system they could learn themselves, and they would also have other people. Say, it sounds like Mary, so Mary was guided through by one of her friends, right? Is that right?
Actually, I think someone she met at a drugstore.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, I'd gone to the drugstore to buy some Epsom salts to kind of help her muscles to feel better. And she got in a conversation with someone in line, and the rest was history.
Wow. Wow. So anybody could really do it as long as they're interested in looking for an answer.
And those of us that are really committed to responsibly disseminating the innovation that nutritional cleansing is, we make sure that anybody who's really interested can have access to a doctor to talk to without paying any extra money, who is very knowledgeable in the area of nutritional cleansing.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's great. So for somebody who may be hearing this and saying, wow, I want to get more, or I'm interested in learning more, is there something a new person starting a nutritional cleansing program, something they should be aware of, or something they should look out for?
Well, one thing we didn't talk about is when you're on a structured nutritional cleansing program and you would like to lose weight, what's a realistic rate of weight loss to expect? That's something we could talk about. And I would say clinically what I've observed is that the first week there can be a lot of weight loss because there can be a lot of water loss. But after that, I would say an average weight loss is about 1.5 pounds a week for women and about 2 pounds a week for men. Although if it's an athlete or someone that's working a lot with weights, sometimes you might not get weight loss, but you might get an enormous change in their measurements because muscle is very dense. And sometimes people actually increase their muscle mass. But in general, I would say, like when the viewers were looking at those photographs, some of those people who lost maybe 50, 100, 150 pounds, and they are curious about how long that took, I would say that rule of thumb that I gave, maybe 1.5 pounds for women and maybe 2 pounds a week for men. And again, what's really exciting about this is we've done body composition studies that show that hardly any of the weight loss comes from muscle mass. In fact, sometimes lean muscle mass increases. And that has enormous implications for health and for avoiding the typical rebound effect that occurs when most people stop dieting, because muscle is basically your fat-burning furnace. And so that's an enormous breakthrough that the scientific community was very surprised to discover.
Why is that? How is it different than a typical diet and exercise plan? Why is there less rebound here?
Well, without going into too much detail, it has to do with what I talked about earlier, that the quality of the protein people are getting, and the quality of and the availability of the vitamins and minerals and fiber and enzymes and the right amount of carbs and the right kinds of carbs and the right amount of fats and the right kinds of fats, all of that fits together. Like, for example, the kind of proteins we use tend to be high in what are called branched chain amino acids, which muscles tend to have an affinity for. So I don't want to blow the viewer out of the way with science, but basically, if you take that and you combine it with what I talked about the cleansing technologies of ways to eliminate the way the body can naturally eliminate a lot of the fat and the water that it was using as a defense against the water-soluble and fat-soluble toxins, you get a synergy there that's really amazing. And the neat thing about those people that the viewers were looking at on those photos is that once those people reached their desired weight and shape, they kept it.
Wow.
They kept it for years.
That's great. That's great. I hate to cut you off, Doctor. I know I asked kind of an open-ended question right near the end of the show. Thank you so much for your time and your passion for sharing wellness, and obviously your very expanded information about what's available. So if anyone of you who's interested, who've listened to the show and found something exciting about the possibility of nutritional cleansing for you, or is interested and curious about maybe learning more about nutritional cleansing, Kathy Bibby or I would be happy to have a conversation with you where we would discuss your personal situation in relation to the goals that you may have. And our contact information is going to be listed at the end of the program, so please do that. I want to, again, thank you very much for coming. I really look forward to speaking with you again in the future about any types of topics that may relate to a doorway to wellness. And I look forward to you joining us again on the next Doorway to Wellness, where we will be talking about nutritional cleansing, taking a closer look. Thank you.